Now, I have always been into video games and gaming ever since I was little, and I think this is pretty apparent since I got the Nintendo Switch 2 on release day. So without a doubt, I like books like Ready Player One, and I have Armada and Ready Player Two somewhere around here. There's been a book recently that has kind of this video game aesthetic that has really had a spotlight on it, and that book is Dungeon Crawler Carl. And this book is just so up my alley, so I'm just super excited to read it.
I have a signed copy. That's so cool. Greatest bookstore in Detroit. Too bad the weather's terrible. Chapter 1. Here we go.
How do they get so many books? How do one get this many books, though?
I just finished the first couple chapters of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and this book's pretty fun and also wild. Our main character is put in like the most bizarre situation. He is outside in the cold in his boxers with his ex-girlfriend's like super expensive cat. Basically, this alien invasion gets rid of everybody who is inside, so he's one of the last people out there, so he's left with no choice, and he enters this dungeon. The humor of this book is it's pretty funny. It's the setup, everything is just so bizarre, and it just kind of works. And he walks into this dungeon, and now he's meeting with goblins and all these other like video game like screens and stuff, and it's definitely pretty funny, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Wow, he's getting down. This is my first time taking off the dust cover, and check it out, there's a little secret message. That's such a cool detail. I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of addicted to the Switch 2. So if this video comes out late, I'm either probably playing Splatoon or Mario Kart World. I just got to chapter 10, and I gotta say, I'm loving the little pictures they have. Basically little things that are happening in the chapter. Like this is the gnome guy they met who was cooking meals for them.
This beginning bit has basically just set up the whole novel and how this world is going to work. It sets up the organization of Beauront and how they got there, and how this whole dungeon scheme is actually a game show, and that they set this up thousands of years ago when they settle on these different planets. We get told that Carl is a natural fighter, and that's because he was in the Coast Guard. And we meet Mordecai, who is their mentor for the dungeon, and he explains all of these different things. And the whole game show is kind of like a tabletop or computer RPG, and we get explained all those rules. There's inventories and all of those different items and that kind of stuff in this dungeon. One of the items was actually eaten by Princess Donut, and she actually gains the ability to talk, and she actually has higher stats than Carl himself, which is kind of funny. Princess Donut is very snarky and very full of herself. They're a really great duo, and I think their personalities very well complement each other, and also kind of adds to the goofiness of a lot of this book so far. They also had this heartfelt moment where they both kind of realized that they need each other and actually kind of like each other, and that was, they were gonna part ways, and then they decided to stay together, and that was a really sweet moment. And then where I'm at right now, they just ran into a boss battle, which was this kind of hoarder lady. Shows that there's like these bigger bosses in these different levels, and they're still on level 1, so they still need to progress into the dungeon.
It's a line from the front of the book.
And I'm officially on part 2.
Wow, so much stuff has happened. They fought so many of these different mini bosses, and they fought this like main burrow boss, which was like this ball of swine, and they fought like these gym bro lizards. They met up with this group that had like a bunch of older people from an elderly facility. In this last part, we find out that they're actually going on to the actual talk show part of the game. Yeah, they've been picked because they did so well in the first part, and they're finally headed down to the second floor. And yeah, there's been lots of stuff. They even like, there's a whole bit where they like went to like the main neighborhood boss of like the goblins. Princess Donut has like this whole like persuasion thing, and they were able to get like a bike out of it, and that's how they got to travel all this distance to be able to find the stairs. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the book. There's tons of like movie and like pop culture references that I've been enjoying a lot.
The catchphrase bit was pretty funny. And we're on chapter 29.
Alrighty, and I am officially on chapter 40, and there's a little cool illustration up there. I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like it. Wow, Carl has had a lot of close calls lately. Earlier in part 2, he battles the Kraken neighborhood boss, and it's very, very close. He ends up having to like explode himself to save Princess Donut, and there's this kind of heartfelt moment. But yeah, definitely thought that was gonna be almost the end for him, but he ended up barely surviving that. And then this whole bit that's just been happening now is one of the elderly people does something they're not supposed to do. They're still kind of hanging out with the elderly care group. Basically an elemental spawns out of that and then like wrecks them. They like barely make it out alive. And right now they're just kind of stuck in one of these safe rooms, and they're not really sure what they're supposed to do, and they're kind of running out of time a little bit. Their viewership has also been going up since they went on that talk show. Sadly, I can't continue to read because I have to go off to work, but I'm excited to pick this up again later.
They're finally heading down to the 3rd floor, and I am officially on the epilogue. I got this new little pet creature thing from one of the bosses they got, and Donut just tamed it, so that was pretty funny. And actually, Agatha has come back, and there's a lot of speculation on Agatha's character right now, so.
And I've now officially finished the book. There's this little bonus material with the goblins, so maybe I'll read that in a second. But yeah, the actual book itself just ended. It ended on kind of a cliffhanger with them going down to the 3rd floor and them being on Odette's show, and basically just recapping all the stuff that happened with them going on that other show and there being all of the issues with him confronting it and how bad that show was. And yeah, I can't believe it's over. Well, I think this is one of my new favorite books now.
I think I'm a fan of LitRPGs now, like literary role-playing games. I think that's a term. The book just creates such a charming atmosphere, and it's just a joy to read. The story just knows when to be funny, and it knows when to be serious, and it just feels like it flew by. The characters are just so captivating, and I can't wait to pick up in the next book where this story left off. And that's the crazy thing about this book. I feel like we have barely scratched the surface of the world that this book has tried to create, and there are so many more wacky and weird things that we have yet to see happen. For me, this book is the perfect blend of video game jargon and mechanics in a quote-unquote realistic setting. The game itself that we find our characters in is a perfect backdrop for this story. We have all of these wacky characters that are just so full of personality. Our lead characters of Princess Donut and Carl complement each other just so well. We have the headstrong, kind-hearted, brutish character of Carl, and there's all these just different references to his relationship brought up by Donut from before the dungeon, which are just so funny and kind of out of pocket at times. And then we have Donut, who is just so full of herself. She's naive and charming. We also have that layering of Carl's anti-authority, and then we have Donut's enthusiasm for attention. That's just so fun to see play out on the page. Also keep in mind, in these books, usually I feel like these characters can easily fall into the cookie cutter, like caricatures of different tropes. But in this book, all of the characters that are introduced are deeper than they appear. In the beginning, these two personalities of Princess Donut and Carl really clash, but as the book goes on, you see that they truly do care for each other, and they have this like true connection with one another. Also, the story puts these two characters in some crazy situations and just some insane boss battles. I also feel like the solution to all these different boss battles are never boring, and they're all very, very creative, and all the character designs of all the different bosses are very creative, and their solutions are even more creative, and none of it feels dumb or plain. There is just a plethora of characters in this book, anywhere between Mordecai, who is like their guy, then you have their PR person, you have all the different like talk show people that are all just so full of life, and you have the care workers that they were with for a while, and then you have those two characters that they ran into earlier on that kind of have this like uber aggression towards all the different people in the dungeon, and there's all the different characters that are on the TV, and it's just all the characters are super fleshed out and super interesting to read. No one is boring, and also no one is dumb. I feel like a lot of times these characters can fit into these dumb categories. Though Princess Donut can play like the dumb, naive character, she really comes through in a lot of these moments, and it kind of shows that this is almost like a part of her characteristic for the camera is to kind of have these dumb expressions, but she truly has some witty moments. Everyone is interesting and they all have different angles towards the game. There was also a lot more political world aspects to this game that I feel like isn't shown off in a lot of these kind of books, and I found it to be extremely fascinating. And let's just be honest, the setup to this book is super funny and bizarre, yet it just works so well and it's just super fun to read. And I think there is 7 books in this series, and I am just super excited to see how far this story goes into this bizarre world of this game.
What character are you?
No way.
It's gonna be Junior.
What that is?
You're actually fraud. Yeah, it's cool.
What does it say? Cabo San Lucas?
Yeah, it's Cabo.
Yeah, you've never been there.
So? I've never been to anywhere that my
Okay, I
shirt
like
says.
it. It's cute.
No, you can't.